So budgets traditionally, it feels like a game of winners and losers, but there was a lot of losers last night, just a lot of them. And off the top of your head, you think, when we're in a pandemic, this is the moment in which you can make substantial change. This is your moment as a nation to see how you're going to build back, but build back better. And that's the problem. We didn't see that last night. There's some key industries for us that totally missed out, and they missed out throughout this pandemic as well. Look at aviation workers. Aviation workers have been sacked in their thousands at the same time why Qantas received $750 million bailout. None of that went to its people. If anything, what they did is they went along a process to remove their staff and then to outsource them. If you looked at the university sector has been completely gutted, which is one of in some major cities, Melbourne especially so, is a major economic driver. Universities would be the last place where you're thinking about cuts, but I think there's an ideological game at play here as well. We're worried about up to 30,000 people who are in the university sector, who work in that sector, will be significantly impacted by their jobs being lost and by their shifts being cut. There was nothing in that for them last night. If you're worried about migrant workers didn't receive JobKeeper, they didn't receive Job Seeker, they received nothing during that pandemic. Some of you will remember the words of Scott Morrison, who suggested all of them needed to go home. Well, right now we have crops that need picking. They do valuable work, they pay taxes in Australia, and yet they receive nothing, and this budget diddled them again. If you're a woman in this country, I am, and I think we've been hearing it really all day, how angry they are about how they missed out. Throughout this pandemic, not only have they taken on the vast majority of the caring load while still being able to try to balance their job, there was nothing that could have actually helped. And by helping, United Voice had a very good claim that was supported across the union movement of free universal childcare. Now, by free, we know what we mean by free, that we don't have to pay, but we end up contributing through our taxes, and that's where it should go. If we want to see a greater participation of women in this workforce, that's the first thing you could do. It's not only good for them, it's good for our kids who will get a high quality education and be well prepped to go into things like primary school, will be well adjusted to be in this world. Every dollar you spend in childcare, this economy gets $2 back as a dividend. It is a no-brainer, and yet it gets consistently it gets ignored. That is a massive, massive mistake. Last night we did see tax breaks brought forward, but not in the way that we'd like to see it. If I was thinking about writing that budget, and I think universally in this forum, we would have thought that those who have the least deserved the most support. They are the people who would have spent that money into this economy and got small businesses going again. But that's not what happened. Of course, the biggest tax cuts go to the rich. So that was a huge disappointment. There was very little action on renewable energies. I see we're blessed with many AMWU members here tonight and former organisers in that space. If you looked at manufacturing, you'd be pretty disappointed as well. This is a great opportunity for us to buy local, to reboot our manufacturing sector, and to be very targeted about how we do procurement as a nation. The biggest spender, we all know, is the government, right? They purchase more than anything else, but their local content is pathetic. They do major infrastructure builds as well. We could have been smart about how we targeted that build too. We could have made demands on what percentage of steel was made into some of these local builds, what percentage of local labour had to be used, what percentage of women you could have seen on the construction jobs, but none of that was done last night. And what'll end up happening is on some of those large infrastructure bills, and we all knew that was going to happen, we're going to see steel and that coming from China. That's a huge mistake for us. So we're pretty worried about what this means for Australia. This is not the moment for us to slow down in spending the money. This is, the best of Keynesians inside of us can come forward and have that big spend, but that isn't what happened. The last bit I think we should touch on really is apprentices. Apprenticeships are so important in this country. We've seen so many apprenticeships being cancelled throughout this pandemic. That's going to have a big impact on young people. There was a massive spend in this space. $1.2 billion is going to be spent to fund half the wages for the first year of an apprenticeship. But guess what? There was nothing for the second year, the third year, or even a fourth year. So what we're going to see happen is there will be a number of people that will start that apprenticeship, but when that wage disappears, so will their apprenticeship. They will be let go. You saw sort of a similar design happen with trying to employ young people, where you see subsidies of $200 and $100 a week in wages, but that cuts off. So anyone who's in their 40s would be at a significant disadvantage of trying to get back into this workforce. Again, I sort of started my talk this evening by saying it's a budget of winners and losers. If you're a woman and you're over 40 and you're unemployed, you've probably been the biggest loser out of this budget. So I think for the Labor movement, there's a lot we need to get done. The last thing I should probably note is that it did very much seem that they're going to pivot to industrial relations, what they would call reform, and what we would call a massive attack. So prepare yourself, comrades, because that's going to be coming, and we're going to need all of you to take action with us. We're going to need all our voices to be very loud, and we're going to have to see all our feet in the street.